everyone. Today I am going to be starting a little mini-series that I'm going to be doing, just kind of rambling and talking about the color pie in Magic. So, yeah, the color pie. So, for those of you who don't know anything about Magic, Magic has 5 colors. Most cards are in one or more of those 5 colors. Some are colorless, but we're not going to talk about those right now. The color of a card determines what it costs to cast, but also kind of determines what it can do. There are some things that colors can do that others can't, and they all have their advantages and disadvantages, as well as having their own lore and story implications and a corresponding ethos attached to them with their own goals and ambitions. I talked about it slightly in my alignment chart video I did last week, but I thought I'd go a bit more in-depth into the color pie because honestly it's just a much better system than the alignment chart, and it's a lot deeper and it's a lot deeper and more nuanced. And yeah, so there are 5 colors, and each of the colors, there is a specific order to the colors, which matters for something called enemy and ally colors, which I'll explain in a bit. Where essentially it goes white, blue, black, red, green, and then back to white, in a circle. If you actually look at the back of a Magic card, it'll actually show that thing, and that arrangement is called the color pie. If I was thought in advance, I would have an actual card here as a prop to show you, but I don't think about these things, so I don't have one for you. So, the color pie is the fundamental thing. It's what all of Magic is built around, and it's honestly one of the things I think makes Magic one of the best card games out there. It defines it, and other card games have varying degrees, and it kind of mimics the color pie, where at a base level the color pie is has one key purpose, and that is that it is designed to make sure that one deck cannot have all the best things, which would homogenize the number of decks. It would be so, because if you just put all the best cards in one deck, that would be the deck. But by spreading out across 5 different colors, you restrict what you can do. Not to say that you can't run more than one color, but it becomes harder and harder to cast your cards the more colors you have, because you have to get the right sorts of mana and things like that. So there is kind of a risk reward there for adding colors and things like that, and it helps add more variety and variance. But the color pie has also just become so much deeper than that. So before I dive into the colors themselves, one thing I mentioned earlier was the idea of enemy and ally colors in respect to kind of their identity and mechanics. So I mentioned there's an order of the colors, and that order is very important because the colors that are next to each other on that order are known as allied colors. So white and blue are allies, blue and black, black and red, green and red and green and white are all the allied color pairs. Allied colors have a lot in common with each other, and have a lot of overlap mechanically and flavor lore wise, and generally have that cohesion. Whereas the opposites, with the enemy colors, so white black, white red, blue red, blue green, and black green. I know what I'm doing. Those are the enemy color pairs, and those have a bit more tension between them, where they don't have as much overlap. you can still run a black-green deck, and there are black-green like cards and creatures and stuff, but there's a bit more tension between the sides of those colors, both mechanically and philosophically. Yeah, so and each I'll dive into each of the individual colors identities, probably spread out against videos, but even then, like, once you get into the 2 color pairs, those have their own kind of identities, like separate from their base components, and then like the 3 colors have like a different identity. 4 colors don't have as much of a cohesive identity, but we're not going to get that far yet. Where was I? So, yeah. So, enemy and ally colors. And I'll get more into that when I start talking more about like the 2 color pairs later on. But that is not the scope of this video. This video is kind of like that introduction that I just did. And the color white. So, white is the first one. It's typically the first color in like any ordering. There's something called Wooberg order, which is just saying the white, blue, black, red, green. It's how it looks. U stands for blue, and if you're seeing a Magic, because there's blue and black, and black for some reason gets the B, and it's stuck with you, and blue stuck with you. But yeah. Where was I? So blue, black. What was I talking about? No. White. That's the color, not blue or black. I'm all over the place today. Okay, so blue, black. No, what? Lily, stop thinking about blue, black. White. So, white is the color of order and society and civilization. White philosophically cares about community and like civilization and justice and that sort of thing. Which isn't to say that white is like the most stereotypically like heroic color, but it's not like strictly always the case. Like you do have like a lot of like noble heroes crusading for justice in the white color. Like one of my favorite characters in it, Elspeth, is just that thing. She's mono white and goes around and is champion of justice, just wants to save everyone and make the world a better place. But then like that's not everyone. Like then there's like those who are like kind of like in the middle, like they're just doing their duty. Like a lot of like soldiers and guards and things like that are white. Just because like, I mean, like they're not intrinsically like good or bad, but they're just there. And then there's they believe in society and order and part of that structure. And then there's like some like straight up like horrible villains who are like mono white, like Elishanor, who is one of the praetors on New Phyrexia, and their mad quest to complete everything and enslave the entire multiverse. And it's just kind of like the angle of white, that is that extreme devotion to order and society and things like that. So it's by no means just like kind of like the bright light of goodness and order and beacon of civilization. Although it tends to lean towards it that way just because of like fantasy tropes and things like that. Anything else that's like commonly in white, in terms of like animals and such that are thing, white usually has like a lot of domesticated animals. So things like trained dogs and things like that are usually white, as well as some birds. I think if like flavor-wise, if anything else falls into the white spectrum in terms of creatures and stuff like that. If you have like just like a person in society, it's often white even if it's like nothing. So it's kind of like a catch-all for like a civilized like person. So although those also can fall in a lot of them. So one thing that is to also look at is from a mechanical perspective. Things that white is really good at is that for in terms of its creatures, it likes making like lots of smaller creatures. Like it doesn't really make a lot of like big ones, but it like has like it's like the strength of the many, the strength of society and civilization. So it likes to go wide on the board. So it might make like a lot of small tokens or things like that, or bringing back small creatures. It has a lot of things for like reanimation and things like that. Not as much as like black does, but it has its own thing of like bringing back, resurrecting your fallen comrades to help fight another day. But other things it's good at, when it comes to removal, so destroying opponents' creatures and stuff, white is very efficient with caveats. Where white is good at like exiling or removing creatures under certain conditions. So things like it only destroys it if its power is X or greater or less than X, and things like that, where it has to spit different conditions or doing damage or exiling creatures that are attacking or blocking, like so during the combat step. White is all about like doing things that fulfill like certain conditions, like enacting justice and whatnot. So, and like two of actually one of the most popular and famous removal spells are in white. Both Swords to Plowshares, which is exile target creature for 1 mana, and that opponent gains life equal to their power. So it's kind of like okay, I remove your creature, but you gain an upside. And then the other one is Path to Exile, which it exiles their creature, but then they get to tutor for a land. So they get to ramp a little bit in exchange for using things. So it's kind of like a drawback being a benefit for your opponent. Although they do a bit less of that nowadays with a lot of white removal and such. Other famous white cards I can think of off the top of my head, not removal wise, not specifically. They also have like a lot of enchantments that like when they enter the battlefield they exile the creature until that leaves the battlefield, so it's like removable maybe to get their creature back. Another thing, backstepping to creatures that fall into the rings. White's iconic creature is angels. So like most sets will have like at least one angel in it, and as like white's like big like fancy creature. Okay, so but back to the original thing. So like other things that it's good at mechanically. It is also very good at, it is along with like being very protective and defensive. So like vigilance is one of its main keywords, so you don't have to like leave yourself exposed after attacking and things like that. It's other like popular like if you go back to Alpha, they had the circle of protection spells and enchantments and things like that. So like a lot of like also other defensive enchantments and things like that is like kind of like white specialty. And like lore wise, like it's all about like Gideon having his like impenetrable shield and things like that. Although I guess in his last time Gideon showed up in the story, it did get penetrated, but I mean that's Nicopolis, so it doesn't count. But like things like that, so it's kind of like the invulnerability. White gets lots of access to in the indestructible keyword. Anything like that. White also gets a lot of flyers, not as much as like blue, but along with blue it gets some of the most flyers. What else is white good at? I did not plan good enough for this in advance. Oh yeah. White is good, so creatures. Yeah, its creatures are small, removals, that thing. White's weaknesses. White, like I said, its removal is very conditional. And like it isn't always the best. White is not great at drawing cards. It's pretty abysmal at drawing cards. And this is more of a personal opinion, but I find like a lot of things that white does, anything that it's good at, another color does better. We're like, yeah, white's creatures can pump out creatures a lot, but green can do that better. White has pretty good removal, but not counting in like a limited environment, but black does that better. Like white has good flyers, but blue does that better. And it's kind of like one of those things where it's like, it's kind of like the jack of all trades, master of none sort of deal. And I know that isn't strictly always the case across all formats. I kind of feel that way about like how I do it. It's actually kind of like interesting where white is one of the color I most philosophically agree with, but it is also the one where it's probably my least favorite color to play. Like personally, I see myself as like either mono white or Bant, being green, white, blue. And I just, it's even though it's like, oh yeah, you know, like society, ensuring the justice for all and things like that is so important. But I would rather not be playing white. I'd rather be playing almost any other color. But you know what? It's an interesting quirk about it. What else? I did not have a very good plan for all this. What else can I talk about though? Other like important characters that I like in there in the white spectrum. I mean, there's the current one, like Gideon. I like Gideon. I don't like dislike Gideon. I know a lot of people don't like him. He's like a big like strong like classic like strong armored man and invulnerable and wants to seek out justice for and things like that. I don't dislike him. I think he's cool. I like his stupid mustache, his stupid beard. It's very spiky. But yeah, no, I just feel it's very interesting. Also, he's from Theros, and I like really like Theros. It's the like Greek inspired world, and I used to be like really into Greek mythology when I was like in high school and middle school. I mean, who wasn't? But yeah. What else is there to talk about? Yeah, no, this one will probably be a little bit shorter. The other videos I'll probably do 2 colors in, but I kind of had like the introduction to the color at the beginning of this one. So I usually like to do my videos a little bit longer, but I have to cut this one a little short. Yeah, no, I'm probably gonna do just probably 2 more videos in the series. One that's like probably blue black and then red green. Just like talking about the different colors, just as like kind of like introduction. Like it isn't that useful if you don't play Magic, but I know there's people on my channel that don't play Magic but might want some context when I talk about the color pie. So yeah, hopefully you understand white a bit more. I'm actually thinking about, wow, no, I'm not even talking about the video, but I'm thinking about doing another short series that's a similar like basics topics, also for D&D. So this is kind of like, I'll have like a little mini series for like basics of Magic and then a mini series for like basics of D&D and stuff. So this is kind of like the beginning of that. Well, I hope you enjoyed the video and maybe learned something. If you play Magic, you probably didn't. But yeah. Well, I hope to talk to you later. And I hope you have a wonderful night. Alright. Good night.